In 1853, the U.S. purchased a seemingly random piece of land from Mexico for $10 million, an acquisition that came to be known as the Gadsden Purchase. But why did the U.S. want it? Hey historians, welcome back to the Why in History. I'm your host, Alexander. As a result of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that ended the Mexican-American War, the United States acquired a lot of land. In addition to being given all the land up to the Rio Grande, which had been disputed prior to the war, the US also ended up with the territory that comprises modern-day California, Nevada, Colorado, and most of the states of New Mexico and Arizona, along with a sliver of Wyoming. Yes, the US was given most of the states of Arizona and New Mexico we know today. So how did the US get the rest of them? The Gadsden Purchase. Right after all that land was acquired from Mexico, the US realized it needed some way to connect it with the rest of the country. At the time, the most popular means of transport over land was railroads, but the southern part of the new land had a problem. It was simply too mountainous for a railroad. This was a problem for Southerners, who wanted to connect the newly acquired southern land with the rest of the southern states. They didn't want a potential railroad to have to pass through the northern states, because that would give the North even more power. Luckily for the South, Franklin Pierce, who thought appeasing the South was the only way to keep the US together, was elected president in 1852. After the Mexican-American War ended, the US had a dispute with Mexico over the Mesilla Valley, an area on the border between Mexico and New Mexico. Now, the US wanted it resolved. Pierce, an expansionist, wanted to get more land, so he sent James Gadsden to negotiate with Mexico. Specifically, he was to acquire enough land to be able to build a southern railroad just south of the mountains. In Mexico, he met with Mexican President Antonio López de Santana, who was on the last of his 11 terms as president. Santana desperately wanted money to rebuild the army that had been destroyed during the Mexican-American War. Gadsden caught on to his desperation, so he tried to get as much land as possible. However, Santana was not willing to part with large swaths of land, but at the same time, he knew that the US would eventually take what it wanted. Not wanting to lose it for nothing, Santana agreed to sell the territory that comprises the Gadsden Purchase for $15 million, a number that was later lowered to 10. On the surface, yes, the US spent $10 million to be able to build a new railroad more conveniently, but it goes a little deeper than that. During this time period, the US was heavily fixated on expansion. Manifest destiny, a belief that the US was destined to take over all the land between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, was a huge factor in this, just like it was with the Mexican-American War. In the end, the railroad was not even built until well after the Civil War, which makes the timing of this purchase even more perplexing. Either way, the land has actually turned out rather useful for the US. The second largest city in Arizona, Tucson, can be found on the territory of the purchase. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.